Well, hey there, Adam. How's it going?
Hey, Eric.
So I hear something we've been waiting a couple years for might be brewing. Collectibles market, which has really been moribund for at least 18, 24 months, has shown some signs of momentum. Tell us what's new there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the bigger stories in the alts world over the last few weeks has been this idea that the collectibles market might be recovering, might be rebounding, might be headed towards another bull market in kind of the pandemic, slightly post pandemic times, 2021. There was a huge run up in the collectibles market, and the bubble kind of popped and kind of hit bottom a couple of years ago, and it's been chugging along ever since. But the last couple of months, it's been showing a lot more momentum. The last 2 months have set records for the highest number of online sales of cards, of trading cards ever. And then just, a lot of high profile sales, a lot of kind of emerging markets within collectibles, within sports cards.
Like collectibles, though, I mean, is it an asset class? I mean, we love sports. Sports is getting big. Everybody, I mean, as a kid, I had a lot of baseball cards. Some of them worth a couple dollars, but like, is it an asset class or is it more like a hobby?
I mean, it's similar to art. These things don't have any inherent value, but people want them and they are rare. The value is always going to be about scarcity and desirability. If something's highly desirable and there aren't very many of it, it's going to command a high price. And that's going to be the same for sports cards, for memorabilia, for anything. So I don't know if it's an asset class in the same way that real estate is an asset class, but there's big money behind it, and you have things that are selling for hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. So
It sounds like there's a lot of cards that are just pieces of paper that are meaningless. And then there's a few grails, a few special things.
you see that the majority of the card ladder indexes or indices, a company that tracks card sales and looks at the values of a lot of different sports and different levels in vintage and modern, almost all of their indices are positive over this last year. So it's not just like super expensive, super rare cards that are doing well. It's across the board. And you look at the National, which was the big sports card convention in Chicago. Our co-founder Slava Rubin was there, and just anecdotally, he said it was crazy. I think it set an all-time record for attendance. There were over 100,000 people there. And Slava was saying that everyone there was super optimistic. It felt like the market is really turning around. And this follows Fanatics Fest, which was in New York City earlier
Yeah, I
this
was
summer,
there.
which also had, and you were there, which also had over 100,000 people attend and was huge. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of positive momentum, a lot of attention coming to collectibles right now.
So what are we looking for? Like, is there a numbers or an index or a metric that when we see it, we're going to say, oh,
Yeah,
this
I mean,
is
I
now we're
think
in a bull market.
for sure a lot of it is right now is anecdotal. There's not great measures of these things. The card ladder 50 kind of measures like 50 important cards, and that is up. You're just looking at kind of auction activity. The health of the market is going to be based on how many people are interested, because that's what drives values is interest. And I think that what we saw in 2021, the conditions are similar, which is there was a run up in the equities market, there was a run up in crypto, and people kind of have more money to play with, and it kind of boosted the value of collectibles. You saw it with luxury watches, you saw it with cars, you saw it kind of across the board in collectibles. I think collectibles is more of a trailing indicator than a leading indicator, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I guess I just think like how many people in the world want to bid on the Caitlin Clark card at 600K? It
Sure. I
seems like
mean,
a smaller universe.
I think that there's two kinds of collectors, right? There's collector, and the same with art. There's people who really want the Caitlin Clark or the Picasso or whatever, and there are people who are buying it as speculation, right? Knowing
Mhm.
or thinking that generally those kinds of things increase in value, and with the hope that whatever you buy it for, you're going to be able to sell it for a lot more later down the line, as it both maybe an investment or a store of value or whatever. Right now, there's a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant card that's being auctioned and will close this weekend. That's already over $6 million, and you would think there's not a huge market of people who are going to spend $6 million on one sports card, but there's enough that it's been bid up that high.
So what's the outlook 3 years out, and does it depend on any macro factors, or is it just a slow grind? Like, where's this going to end up?
I think that the macro factors are pretty important because I do think that this is one of the first things to get scaled back if, the other markets go down. It has been on the upswing for a couple of years. It just hasn't accelerated until perhaps now. So I think there is room to run. What can happen in collectibles is that could be an overproduction of a lot of cards. People get really excited, and then they realize there are 10,000 other Caitlin Clark cards out there, and maybe the value's not going up, and then people start selling, and that's what's happened in the past, and values start going down.
I think that manufactured scarcity makes me a little nervous as an investor. I think that you want to stick with these really proven unicorns, right? Yeah. They're not going to make any more of them.
Yeah, I mean, I always tend to be more of a vintage guy than a modern guy, and apparently, as Slava told us, vintage is super hot right now. When you're talking about Babe Ruth cards or something from 100 years ago, there's just not going to be any more.
No, right. Cool. Well, let's keep our eyes open, see what happens.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.